You're sitting at the closing table in Orange County. 6 months of house hunting behind you, $800,000 condo finally secured. 20% down payment scraped together through every savings hack you know. The title officer slides the settlement statement across the table. You're expecting to write a check for $160,000. Your down payment. The number at the bottom reads $247,000. You blink, you reread it. What are these line items? Mello Roos Community Facilities Tax, seismic retrofit compliance deposit, supplemental property tax prepayment, city transfer tax, county transfer tax, natural hazard disclosure report fee, earthquake authority assessment. Nobody told you about any of this. If you're shopping for California real estate right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Zillow listing shows a price. Your lender pre-approves you for that price. Your agent walks you through 80 open houses. You make offers, you get rejected. You offer more, you finally win. And then you sit down at closing and discover that the game you thought you were playing had completely different rules. Here's what nobody tells you during those 80 house tours. California home buying exists in a parallel universe of fees that simply don't exist in other markets. These aren't minor administrative costs. These aren't rounding errors. These are tens of thousands of dollars in charges that appear for the first time when you're already emotionally committed, when your earnest money is at risk, when your moving truck is booked. The system is designed this way. Information asymmetry isn't a bug, it's the feature. Because if you knew the real number before you fell in love with the house, before you imagined your furniture in those rooms, before you told your family you're moving to that neighborhood, you might do the math and walk away. And walking away doesn't generate commissions or transfer tax, revenue or insurance premiums. Today, I'm going to show you the complete accounting, every hidden fee, every regional tax, every mandatory insurance policy that doesn't exist in Texas or Florida. We're going to build the true cost line by line. We're going to compare California's fee structure to other states, and we're going to calculate exactly how much extra you pay annually just for the privilege of a California address. Let's start with what you think you're buying. California's median home price sits at $780,000 statewide. In coastal markets, push that over $1 million. What does that actually buy you? A three-bedroom house built in 1978, original kitchen with laminate countertops from the 90s, popcorn ceilings, 800 square feet smaller than the national median home, located in a neighborhood with mediocre school ratings, requiring an hour commute each way to your job, needing updates you can't afford because you just spent everything on the down payment. You're not paying for luxury, you're paying for location alone. Let me show you what that same $780,000 buys in Austin. A four-bedroom new construction, 2,400 square feet, modern finishes, 15-minute commute, top-rated schools, and you'll still have money left over. The comparison gets worse. In Nashville, you're getting a fully renovated historic home with original hardwood floors and a backyard. In Phoenix, you're getting a house with a pool in a gated community. In Raleigh, you're getting 5 bedrooms and enough land for your kids to actually play outside. California's median home is 800 square feet smaller than the national median at twice the price. You're not buying more house. You're buying proximity to the Pacific Ocean and the cultural cash of saying you live in California. That's the entire premium. The question we're really asking today is whether that premium is worth what it actually costs. Not what the listing says. What it actually costs. Most buyers focus exclusively on saving the down payment. On an $800,000 home at 20% down, that's $160,000. It's a crushing number to save. It takes years. It requires sacrifice. You cancel vacations. You drive a car held together by hope. You eat rice and beans while your friends go to restaurants. But here's what nobody tells you. That $160,000 is just the beginning. That's not the number you need. You need cash to close. And cash to close is a very different calculation. Let's start with the closing costs that exist everywhere. Loan origination fees run about 1% of your loan amount. On a $640,000 loan, that's $6,400. Title insurance averages $4,000. Escrow fees add $2,000. Appraisal costs $600. Home inspection runs $500. We're at $13,500, and we haven't even gotten to California-specific charges yet. Now the California additions appear. Transfer taxes vary wildly by jurisdiction, and they're vicious. Los Angeles City charges 0.45% of the sales price. On your $800,000 purchase, that's $3,600. You're paying $3,600 just for the privilege of buying in that city. Oakland charges 1.5%, $12,000 on the same house, $12,000 just to transfer the title. Many California cities have added mansion taxes on homes over certain thresholds. These kick in at $5 million in some areas, but the threshold keeps dropping. San Francisco charges varying rates up to 6% on luxury properties. The definition of luxury keeps expanding downward. But here's where it gets truly predatory. Some cities are charging you $12,000 just for the privilege of buying there. You haven't moved in yet. You haven't used any city services. You're just paying for permission to complete the transaction. Before we even get to California's ongoing costs, before we talk about Mello Roos or earthquake insurance or retrofit requirements, you're already $15,000 to $25,000 above typical closing costs in other states. Your $160,000 down payment just became $180,000 to $185,000. And we're just getting started. Now let's talk about the fee that most California buyers have never heard of until closing day. Mello Roos, you thought property tax was the annual cost? California has a second property tax that doesn't even show up in listings. Here's how Mello Roos works. California passed the Mello Roos Community Facilities Act in 1982. It allows cities to create special assessment districts to finance infrastructure in new developments, roads, schools, sewers, parks. Instead of paying for these upfront, the city issues bonds and charges homeowners a special annual assessment to pay back those bonds over 20 to 40 years. The trap is this. Mello Roos assessments aren't included in the property tax calculations you see on Zillow or Redfin. They're separate line items. They range from $2,000 to $10,000 annually, and they last for decades. Let me show you a real example. You find a home in Irvine listed at $750,000. Beautiful, modern, great schools. You check the property tax, it shows 1.2%, which is high but expected for California. That's $9,000 annually, $750 a month. You can handle that. You get to closing. The title officer mentions Mello Roos, $6,000 annually, $500 a month. This wasn't in your budget. This wasn't anywhere in the listing. But you're at closing. Your earnest money is at risk. You're committed. Let's build out the real monthly housing cost. Base property tax, $9,000 annually. That's $750 a month. Mello Roos, $6,000 annually, $500 a month. Homeowners insurance in California with wildfire risk premium, $3,500 annually, $292 a month. Earthquake insurance, optional but necessary in many areas, $1,800 annually, $150 a month. HOA fees, common in newer developments, $400 a month. Let's add this up. Property tax, $750 Mello Roos, $500 homeowners insurance, $292 earthquake insurance, $150 HOA fees, $400 monthly housing costs before your mortgage payment, $2,092. Look at that number. Really look at it. You haven't made a single mortgage payment yet, and you're spending $2,092 a month just to own the property. Now compare this to Texas. Yes, Texas has higher property tax rates at 2.5%, but Texas has no Mello Roos, lower insurance costs, rare HOA fees. A similarly priced $750,000 home in Austin has lower total carrying costs despite the higher tax rate. Here's your quotable verdict. California doesn't just charge you more for the house. It charges you a monthly subscription fee for the privilege of living there. You're paying for infrastructure bonds from the 1990s. You're paying for earthquake risk from 1906 fault lines. You're paying for wildfire insurance for climate change your grandparents didn't cause. But wait, we haven't even talked about the mandatory retrofits that can add $50,000 to your closing costs. California has seismic and safety retrofit requirements that don't exist anywhere else. Soft story retrofit requirements for multi-unit buildings built before 1978. These cost $30,000 to $150,000 and are often passed to buyers. Mandatory earthquake valve installation at $1,500. Fire-resistant roofing and siding requirements in wildfire zones running $20,000 to $60,000 for full compliance. Let me introduce you to Sarah and James. Combined income, $190,000. That puts them in the 95th percentile for California household income. They should be comfortable, right? They're making more than 95% of Californians. They bought a 1940s Craftsman in Pasadena for $900,000. Charming. Original details. Good bones. They scraped together the 20% down payment. $180,000. Their parents helped. Their savings. Years of preparation. Here's what appeared on their settlement statement. $8,000 in transfer taxes just to buy in Pasadena. Soft story retrofit deposit of $45,000 due within 12 months of closing. The house needs it. It's mandatory, not negotiable. The seismic inspection revealed foundation bolting needed. $12,000. Non-compliant water heater bracing, $800. Electrical panel upgrade to current code, $6,000. Let's build their actual cash to close. Down payment, $180,000 standard closing costs, $14,000 transfer taxes, $8,000 retrofit escrow deposit, $45,000 total, $247,000. That's 50% more than the down payment they spent years saving. 50% more than anyone told them they'd need. And remember, this is a household earning $190,000 a year. Wealthy by any national standard. Just barely making it work in California. Now let's look at their monthly reality. Principal and interest on their mortgage, $4,000. Property tax, $750. Mello Roos, $500. Homeowners insurance, $400. Earthquake coverage, $275. HOA, $550. Monthly housing cost, $6,475 before they buy groceries. Here's what that actually looks like. Sarah and James gross $15,833 monthly. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, health insurance, and retirement contributions, they take home $10,900. Their housing costs, $6,475. They have $4,425 remaining. Now subtract childcare for one toddler, $2,200 monthly in Pasadena. Car payments, $650. Student loans, $420. Groceries for 3 people, $800. Utilities, $300. Remaining $55 a month. $55 of discretionary income for a household earning $190,000 annually. Here's what that actually feels like day to day. It feels like James picking up extra weekend shifts to cover the supplemental tax bill that arrived 8 months after closing. It feels like Sarah's parents gifting them the $45,000 retrofit deposit because they literally didn't have it. Creating a generational wealth transfer masked as help. It feels like canceling their weekend trip to San Diego because the earthquake insurance annual premium hit all at once. It feels like calculating whether they can afford a second child based on whether James gets his year-end bonus. They earn more than 90% of Americans and live paycheck to paycheck. That's California homeownership for the merely wealthy. But perhaps most concerning is the bill that arrives after you've already moved in, the supplemental property tax. Nobody warns you about this. Not your agent, not your lender, not the seller. Here's how it works. When you buy a home in California, the property gets reassessed at your purchase price. Thank you, Proposition 13. The county then sends you a supplemental tax bill for the difference between the old assessed value and your new purchase price, prorated from your purchase date to the end of the fiscal year. You bought an $800,000 home that was previously assessed at $400,000. Your supplemental tax bill will be somewhere between $3,000 and $8,000 depending on when you closed, and it arrives 6 to 18 months after purchase with a 30-day payment deadline. Let's talk about the psychology of this moment. You've moved in. You've exhausted your savings on closing costs, moving expenses, new furniture for rooms that didn't fit your old stuff. You've started settling into your monthly payment rhythm. You're barely making it work, but you're making it work. Then this bill arrives. $3,000 to $8,000 due in 30 days. It feels like a scam. It feels like someone made a mistake. But it's completely legal. It's completely predictable. If anyone had told you about it, the system is designed this way. The information asymmetry isn't accidental. If you knew about the supplemental tax bill, the Mello Roos annual assessment, the retrofit requirements, the earthquake insurance mandate, The true transfer tax hit, you might add it all up before falling in love with the house. You might decide the math doesn't work, and that decision doesn't generate revenue for anyone. Let's step back and run the systems analysis. What is Sarah and James's California choice actually costing them? Imagine an alternate timeline. Sarah and James moved to Austin instead. Same quality home, same school ratings, same commute time. $450,000 instead of $900,000. Down payment at 20%, $90,000. Closing cost with no transfer taxes and no Mello Roos infrastructure debt, $12,000. Total cash to close, $102,000. California required $247,000. Texas required $102,000. Savings, $145,000 that didn't have to leave their bank account on day one. Now the monthly costs. Austin mortgage on $360,000 loan, $2,300. Property tax at 2.5%, $900 monthly. Homeowners insurance, $150. No Mello Roos, no earthquake coverage needed. No mandatory retrofits. Total monthly $3,350. California monthly $6,475. Texas monthly $3,350. Monthly savings $3,125. Here's the number that should haunt every California homebuyer. That monthly difference, invested at 7% annual return over 30 years, equals $3.8 million. $3.8 million. That's Sarah and James's entire retirement. That's their kids' college fund. That's their financial security. That's their optionality to change careers or start a business or help their aging parents or weather a medical emergency. The California premium costs them everything. And who profits from this transfer? Real estate agents earn higher commissions on inflated California prices. They have zero incentive to reveal total costs that might kill the deal. Local governments created Mello Roos specifically to finance growth without voter-approved tax increases. Buyers inherit decades-old infrastructure debt they didn't vote for and don't benefit from because the roads were built in 1995. Insurance companies profit from mandatory expensive earthquake coverage that statistically pays out rarely. Title companies charge percentage-based fees that scale with absurd prices. Contractors profit from retrofit requirements that create a captive market. You need the work. You have no choice. They set the price. Nobody in this chain has an incentive to warn you about the total cost. Everyone profits when you sign. Everyone loses when you walk away. So the information stays hidden until you're committed. Let me give you permission to do something radical. You can choose not to play this game. If your household income is below $250,000, California homeownership will consume your financial future. The math doesn't work. It cannot work. It will not work. Unless you're wealthy enough that real estate is just one asset class among many, you're signing up for housing poverty where you own an appreciating asset but can't afford to live. Here's what you can choose instead. You can rent in California while investing the difference between rent and phantom ownership costs. You maintain optionality, you build liquid wealth, you can leave if circumstances change. That's not failure, that's financial literacy. You can move to a lower cost state. You can work remotely. You can visit California. That's not giving up, that's choosing wealth. Building over location status. That's recognizing that the American dream doesn't require a California address and a six-figure debt load. You can stay with family longer. You can build actual wealth. You can buy later when it's truly affordable instead of technically possible. Rejecting the timeline pressure isn't falling behind. It's refusing to let cultural expectations destroy your financial future. Buying in California only makes sense if your career earnings potential exists nowhere else, if your family support system is irreplaceable, or if you're already wealthy enough that the premium doesn't affect your lifestyle. For everyone else, it's a trap disguised as achievement. You're not failing California. California's housing market is failing you. The system is designed to extract maximum wealth from people who can least afford it while providing minimum transparency about true costs. Choosing financial health over zip code bragging rights isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Real wealth is freedom. Freedom to change jobs without panic. Freedom to have another child if you want. Freedom to help your parents when they need it. Freedom to weather emergencies without catastrophe. Freedom to build actual net worth instead of paying subscription fees to live in an overpriced building. You're not priced out. You're smart enough to do the math and reject a bad deal. That makes you financially literate in a market that profits from your confusion. And that's worth more than any California address.